the halfway point of the season, round 9 of the 2014 FF1M Championship, and it comes to you from the Ile de Notre Dame circuit located in Montreal, Canada. And I'm being joined by Joseph Willows. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Third time in the com box for FF1M. Looking forward to it, especially on probably one of the best tracks in the world.
And you've just had one of your best races in the world in Road America last time out.
Yep, finally ticked the box on the 1-2. Fighting back now in the championship. Obviously, Courtney tried to sabotage me in the com box last time, so it seems he's very scared of me at the moment.
So he should be, because Willows now lead the Constructors' Championship by 16 points from Shake and Bake and a further one from Gajera. And it's Lewis Hamilton who leads the championship for Gajera, just by 2 points from Vettel, but the momentum is with yourself.
It is indeed. I also noticed that Guy and even Courtney are probably thinking I'm probably going to win the Constructors because I've got two strong drivers, but it's early days, you never know.
You never know. And here's a look at the map where last season we saw Sergio Perez take his first FF1M victory, much like recently in real life F1. That was a strange race because it seemed like the gearing was a bit too short on these long straights and nobody could overtake.
Yeah, I wonder if AG sorted that out for this time around.
So we're just having a look at the practice results where, despite competing the fewest laps, Fernando Alonso topped the session ahead of Thomas Gonzalez and Lewis Hamilton. Only less than half a tenth in fact, the gap between Alonso and Gonzalez, and Hamilton topping practice 2, and once again half a tenth the gap between himself and Alonso. There's Gonzalez in third and there's Rosberg in fourth, so once again you're looking quite strong.
Indeed. Using the soft tyres though for this race. We obviously used the mediums last time around, so we're using the softs for this race.
And it's looking good so far, with another pole position for Alonso, but he's joined this time by Valtteri Bottas for GRM, definitely his best qualifying of the season.
I see a GRM on the front row, that's for sure.
And Button third, Magnussen fifth, so looking strong for myself as well in the FJR.
Rosberg in sixth. My rivals seem to be behind me, must be said.
Hamilton not a strong qualifying for himself, so there's a peculiar thing about the Gajera at the moment where they weren't quick in Monaco, so I wonder if they've got a good aerodynamic car but not particularly good mechanically in terms of mechanical grip.
They didn't seem that strong in Road America, to be honest. I mean, I know Hamilton got the podium, but he never seemed to be challenging for the win at all during that race.
I think the one-stop strategy definitely helps because it was a long pit lane in Road America.
Indeed, yeah. And speaking of which, I'm the only winner of Road America as well, so
of course,
that's
yeah.
something to add. Yeah, the only one to add to the resume with that one.
And it was once again with Alonso.
Yep, 2 out of 2 for the Spaniard.
One Spaniard on the front and one at the back, with Jaime Alguersuari qualifying last for Mitchell. So here we go, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights are on, and then the usual pause before. That's a big long pause, but the 5 lights finally go out, and who gets away best? It looks like Alonso's got the best start. Can Bottas do anything about it? No, he can't. But Alonso leads from Bottas. Grosjean up to third. That's a poor start from Button from third on the grid, who's now dropped to fifth. Even poorer for Massa, who's dropped down to last once again.
Rosberg also got a good start. He's moved up to 4th from 6th on the grid, so a good start from both my drivers all round.
And Vettel and Sainz remain at 7th and 8th, so they're holding station. So the movers, well, it's definitely Grosjean up to 3rd position in the Pedersen. And let's see what happens further back. We've got Button versus Rosberg, not quite, as we go into the turn 8 and 9 chicane. And there's a bit of jostling, there's a couple of Exolites getting a bit frisky. But they're all through safely, and here's Fernando Alonso, race leader, once again.
He's pulling a bit of a gap now to Bottas. There's still some movement going on down at the hairpin. I believe this version is the modern day Montreal from memory, because the sponsorship boards look a bit modernised as well. It's also the shorter hairpin, because it was slightly longer back in 2001, I believe.
It was, yes, and they had an old pit lane exit as well. They changed it for 2002. But that was 69 laps, it then got up to 70, but here we are doing 69 laps.
Because in FF1M we like to do things a little bit more realistically compared to what the FIA does.
The FIA do at least 305 kilometres, whereas we do it there or thereabouts, 305.
That's why Monaco is about a 95 lapper.
There's 90 laps for the past couple of years. Here's on board with Vettel, chasing Kevin Magnussen for 6th position going into the chicane. The very high top speeds, nearly 370. Magnussen holding on though, and is Vettel going to come under pressure from Sainz, who's having a terrific weekend so far, best qualifying for him in 8th, and remaining in 8th so far. So GRM have got a very quick car in Montreal.
Especially since Sainz hasn't scored a point yet. It's only been Bottas who's been the point scorer for them, as Hamilton has a go. No, he spun!
And that's Hamilton making contact with Adrian Sutil, I think, going into the chicane, and Jean-Eric Verne taking great advantage of that, moves up into 9th, and now the two Horizons are going to go at it once again into the first couple of corners, but Adrian Sutil holds the advantage. Now, has Hamilton rejoined? I suspect he has, because the yellow flags have been withdrawn.
That's probably going to be one of where we're going to see quite a lot of action, that chicane. I think we're probably going to see a lot of carnage throughout the course of this race, so Hamilton might not be the only one having trouble there.
Absolutely, and it does look as if the gearing has been fixed for this particular race. And here is Hamilton in last behind the Andrew F1 of Felipe Massa, and Kobayashi quite a way down as well, so both Gujeras not happy.
6.2 seconds between Alonso and Bottas. Alonso is just streaking away with this at the moment.
I wonder if he's on a 3-stop strategy, because that's pretty much half a second a lap, and Bottas holding a 2.3 second buffer over Grosjean, so not bad from him so far.
Indeed, it seems that Grosjean's more worried about Rosberg. Speaking of which, here is this battle for third.
And just a bit too far back going into the first couple of corners. I believe it is the... I'm trying to remember the corner names for this, because I know the big tight hairpin's the Casino hairpin, and that's kind of it really, and then there's the Wall of Champions. So I think we're going to have to make up some corner names.
Or as Kubica calls it, the Champion of Walls.
Champion of Walls.
I had to bring that one in there because I found that hilarious when he called it that.
Good old Kubica.
I mean, he won here in real life back in 2008, so surely he should know the corner names.
The year before, he had that massive accident going into this very corner, the Casino hairpin.
Yeah, he was lucky that day, to be fair. Very, very lucky.
Only a sprained ankle. That's quite incredible, the strength of the car then. Yeah.
We even saw that last week, how much the car has come with Grosjean as well.
Absolutely. I mean, any other era than that, Grosjean would have been history, but so many safety advancements.
Especially 3 years ago when we didn't even have the halo.
It could have been very different just 3 years ago. But thank goodness he's okay.
Yeah, he's sadly not going to be racing though in Abu Dhabi. That's why Fittipaldi's racing again.
Although Mercedes are open to a farewell test for him, which is quite nice.
It's a nice gesture from them, I think.
Yes, definitely. Speaking of Grosjean, there he is right in front of Rosberg as we approach the Villeneuve chicane. It's the left-right onto the back straight. Which one shall be the Stroll corner, because he's another Canadian?
Well, maybe the one where he crashed with Brendan Hartley, so I think we'll stick with that one.
So the turn immediately before 6 and 5 is now called the Stroll corner.
Yes. And we'll call this hairpin...
This is the Casino hairpin.
This is the Casino hairpin, okay. So
yes.
We don't need to name it then. I was going to name it the Villeneuve hairpin because of what happened back in 2000 with him and Ralf Schumacher, but... Yeah, and we'll leave it at Casino.
Although turn 6 and 7, Villeneuve did have another incident with Ralf Schumacher and then just drove straight into the wall on the marbles.
Speaking of a corner where Villeneuve had an accident, the Wall of Champions, twice.
97 and 99.
Yep. Murray Walker initially thought it was Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the wall.
No such problems for Frentzen on this circuit. Although, actually, approaching the 3 and 4 chicane, where we're approaching now, Frentzen did have a massive accident in 99.
And in 2001 as well, which forced him to miss that Grand Prix.
Yes, 2 accidents in the same corner in 3 years. That's bad luck for the German.
I think in that occasion, I think he might have hurt his foot on that one rather than what he had in 99, which was whiplash, I believe.
He might have suffered a fractured leg in the 99 incident. It might have been the other way around, actually.
Well, 2001 was the one where he missed Canada, so I would imagine it was that race, because he didn't miss any races in 99 from memory.
No races in 99, yeah. But he did suffer a broken or fractured leg in that 99 incident, so lucky boy.
He was indeed.
We should probably get back to the action, I think. We've been doing a bit of a history lesson.
Well, yeah, I mean, there hasn't been much going on, so it's been nice to have a conversation. I was going to say that Button's actually keeping up with this battle at the moment.
Yeah, Grosjean's definitely holding up the willows of Rosberg, but Rosberg can't seem to do anything about it on these long straights, so maybe the gearing hasn't been fixed after all, and it's just genuinely difficult to overtake round here.
Maybe a version change might help. We get some overtake. I think there's a yellow flag, actually.
There is, and it's Alonso!
Oh, no.
Fernando Alonso from the lead. I did see the pit indicator on the left-hand side of Rosberg, but obviously that's just what happened. Alonso, it did say transmission failure, so obviously he's pulled off with a gearbox issue, and that's where the smash has come from.
Maybe it's me being in the commentary box that causes all this bad luck with Alonso, I don't know.
Maybe, I mean, yeah, although, yeah, just with Alonso, because in race 2 we saw Rosberg win, and then race 5 saw both willows crashing.
Yeah.
So that's bad luck.
Let's hope that's not a thing that's going to happen with Rosberg in this race, as we've got pit stops underway now.
That's Jean-Eric Vergne and then an Exolite in the background. I'll tell you what it does do. It does open the race up quite dramatically, because we've now got Bottas in the net lead, only 2 seconds ahead of Grosjean and Rosberg, but the top 7 separated by just 7.6 seconds, so this could be anybody's, and although I suspect for your sake, you're hoping it's Rosberg.
Yeah, well, you would think in theory, if he got ahead of Grosjean, he might catch up to Bottas, given that it appears that our cars seem to be stronger than the GOMs, but at the moment, Grosjean acting like a bit of a boss at the moment.
A Pedersen bus. Nice big Danish bus going on there.
Yep, driven by a Frenchman.
Driven by half French, half Swissman.
Yes.
Rosberg is due in the pits this lap, so I think he's running 3 stops. And I suspect Vergne and the Exolites that came in is also running on 3 stops. Grosjean continuing for another lap, as is Bottas. Will he be in the pits the next lap? We'll find out. And Rosberg pulls into his pit box.
Here he goes then. Let's hope it's a clean stop. Should be anyway. Well, you can get tyre issues on, well, delayed tyres on Grand Prix 4, but they are quite rare to have. 5.8 seconds, quick stop.
Not bad. And I suspect the new tyres will play a bigger factor than low fuel this time around, because I seem to remember that being the case in the past couple of seasons. So let's see what Rosberg can do on his new tyres as he rejoins in 11th ahead of the other Pedersen of Chandok.
As long as he's not in traffic, this could actually help out, given that Grosjean and Bottas haven't pitted yet.
This does look a nice bit of clear track for Rosberg, as is that Rosberg versus Hulkenberg, so he has caught up pretty quickly. No pit stop yet for Bottas or Grosjean, or indeed any of the top lot, so maybe Rosberg is the only one of the top runners on a 3 stop. We'll find out.
We'll have to wait and see, really, as looks like Hulkenberg's got some better traction compared to Nico coming down the straight, as Button's now in the pits.
Button in the pits from, I think that was 4th position. It said 6th, but he probably lost a couple of positions already. And through the final chicane.
Hulkenberg did go a bit defensive there going into that final chicane. Will Rosberg try and move into the first corner? He's in the slipstream. Let's see. No, he won't go for it this time by. Hulkenberg again going very defensive on the hard tyres, it must be said, as Button rejoins behind them.
On a 2-stop strategy is Jensen. That's quite a lot of fuel compared to Rosberg. So let's see what Button can do on these new set of soft tyres.
As it looks like K-Mag's coming into the pits this time by, as the red indication on Button on the left.
Well spotted, and being from 3rd, although he probably rejoined behind Button, was running behind Button at this stage. Rosberg trying the outside again, but Hulkenberg shutting the door quite firmly, and wide goes Rosberg. He just got a little bit on the grass going into there.
Keep it together. As now here comes Button, and here he goes. He's not going to get the move done.
Now the outside line was probably the wrong one to go for then, as Bottas, race leader, comes into the pits, as does Roman Grosjean, and Magnussen will be following suit, and will the rest be following suit? Vettel, Sainz and Sainz have not yet stopped. They should be in very shortly.
Button unable to get the move done there, and it seems that now there's a train of cars in the pits. I think one of them's Bottas, isn't it? Or was that Sainz?
Well, it's Bottas and Grosjean. Here comes Bottas.
Still ahead, I think.
Just about ahead of Rosberg and Button, as Hamilton comes into the pits. He was up to 10th at one point, and we've jumped Grosjean. Both Rosberg and Button have jumped Roman Grosjean, so that is a net second and third for our drivers.
Indeed so. So now Rosberg, as long as he can get away from Button, could try and catch up to Bottas if he can, but Bottas, of course, is on the fresher tyres, so it might be a bit of a task, but we'll see.
As temporary race leader Vettel comes into the pits, I didn't see Sainz coming in, so I think Sainz leads. He does indeed. So we've got a GRM 1-2 at the moment. As Bottas, was that running a bit wide or not quite wide?
No, I think it might be a normal racing line. As Sainz has now come into the pits, I did see the red indicator on Bottas there. It's Hamilton trying to make a comeback. He's now on the back of, I believe this is Karun Chandok.
It does look like Chandok. This would be for, I have no idea which position this is. And he's still behind Massa. Is that Kubica in front of these two? Be surprised if it is Massa. This is about for 18th.
It's very clear that their lack of overtaking is making it hard for Lewis to make a fight back in this race. Helps my championship out a bit, that's for sure.
And it does confirm that the Gajeiras are not particularly quick in Montreal, so they've got a bit of work to do before this Christmas break coming up, and we'll be running a few classic FF1M races.
Yeah, absolutely. As Hamilton's still not going for the move, as the gap between Bottas and Rosberg is now 1.9 seconds.
So Rosberg closing in a little bit on Bottas, but Bottas is on a two-stop strategy, whereas Rosberg is pitting another 2 times. So it does favour Bottas if he can take his second FF1M win, as we look at Hamilton versus Chandok into the chicane.
Chandok's gone wide.
That's Chandok cutting the chicane. Now Hamilton is alongside. And there's a Mitchell coming into play. Is that Al Jaswari? It is indeed.
Looks like it.
And Chandok loses 2 positions in one straight, so bad luck there for the Indian.
Indeed, a bit of a clumsy error there from Karun, and even Lewis's teammate is in the background. I wonder if he's in this fight or whether he's coming up to lap these guys. I'm not 100% sure.
Must be for position, I think, as Hamilton is making a move on Massa going into the casino hairpin. Mediums versus hards. And side by side is the exit.
I think he should have the run, and no, he doesn't, surprisingly.
No, he backed out of that one. He's a bit nervous of Massa.
Perez is now in the pits for Exolite.
And these are the second of the 3 stoppers. Speaking of which, here's Rosberg due into the pits.
Gap 2 seconds to Bottas, so he's obviously managed to jump Grosjean a little bit earlier. Now he's going to see if he can try and jump Bottas, and this will of course be for the lead of this race. Bottas of course looking for his second victory of his career, but Rosberg looking for his second victory of the season. 2 seconds going on here.
And going straight on rather than through the right left of the wall of champion chicane. Into the pits comes Rosberg.
Obviously we're a little bit further down the pit lane, so don't confuse yourself with them red mechanics. I think they're Exolite mechanics that are coming out, presumably for Raikkonen, because we already saw Perez going into the pits.
Yeah, it must be for Raikkonen, and Exolite had a dreadful race last time out, with both cars crashing at the carousel, and Raikkonen went off 3 times in the space of a lap.
I bet James Whiteley was pulling his hairs out after that race.
I think he had a litter of kittens after that one.
It might have done.
Rosberg rejoins right behind Adrian Suttle, so once again stuck behind another German for a bit. And let's see what he can do on his outlap. He looks quick immediately.
But we know it's hard to overtake, so this might be costly for Nico, but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll see what new softs do. What tyres is Suttle on? I'm trying to see, is that a yellow ring? He's on the mediums, indeed he is. And not making a move into, let's call it turn 8 and 9, because I can't think of another Canadian driver.
Apart from Nicholas Latifi, but there we are.
So through the hairpin go the two Germans, and let's see the traction. And it's not too bad, losing a bit, but he's firmly in the slipstream.
He's going to go for the move. I think this is going to be one of the few clean moves that we're going to see at the chicane.
366 kilometres an hour before braking hard for the chicane as Rosberg takes 7th, and I suspect that's going to be a very critical move because now he's got a very nice bit of clear track to try and make use of his third set of tyres. This is going to be interesting to watch.
10 seconds worth to be exact, so hopefully Rosberg can take advantage of this and try and jump Bottas once he makes his pit stop, as here is Lewis Hamilton.
Rosberg's definitely on target because it's now a few laps later and there's contact between the Mitchell and the Horizon and more contact between the Mitchell and the other Tornado.
Well, both Tornadoes, I think.
There's a massive conflab and that's going to benefit the Exolites that's passed them both. It's Kimi Raikkonen and 3 wide almost into the first series of corners as we see a replay of what happened. It's Hulkenberg versus Di Resta. Contact. And then the more contact there, that was with Buemi.
And then we just saw a lot of usual motorway traffic.
Rosberg!
Oh no!
Rosberg has pulled off the circuit, so it's a double mechanical failure for Willows. And I was looking forward to seeing what he could do on his final stint as well. So once again, I'm disappointed by a Willows retirement.
Transition again. Gearbox issues for both of them.
So they're taking a pounding over these curbs. So there's some work to do.
That's for sure. Clearly these curbs do not suit the car, that's for sure. Whoa, somebody's gone deep.
Kimi Raikkonen.
Oh, is that a retirement? He's out, that's a suspension failure.
Front left suspension has gone on the X-Lite of Raikkonen, so yet another retirement. How many is that for Kimi? That's his 5th retirement of the season.
Well, it was a puncture, but that obviously probably would have caused the suspension to damage, because that's what punchers can do if you don't get them repaired, as Ricciardo makes a move down one of the Tornadoes.
Going into the final chicane, is that Verne he's overtook?
Might be Buemi, I think.
Kubica's having a go at the Tornado as well, but the Tornado having a go back. This is Verne this time on Alguersuari into the final chicane. A clean move for Jean-Eric.
And now Daniel Ricciardo fancies a piece of the action as Button's coming in this lap, and I wonder if he's now actually starting to close the Bottas, because we know that your car is actually very strong down the straight, and given that this is a power track, might come into your hands with this one.
Potentially, although we were quite quick in Monaco as well, so that's contrary to the power theory. So,
but you were quick in Road America as well, that's why you led for the first part of the race.
Yeah, I think the 2-stop strategy helped with that one. I think if whatever strategy I took for that one, I probably would have finished 4th anyway. But it was good to lead legitimately a race once again, and that's a very quick stop, 4.6 seconds for Button as he exits the pits as he got clear track. It's 6th at the moment, and it looks like a nice bit of clear track for Jensen.
Yep, only his teammates in front. When Rosberg came out, it was about a 10-second buffer, so I wonder if it's the same sort of gap between the two FJRs this time by...
Potentially. And we see Vettel, who's had a very good race actually, from 7th on the grid, was running 4th before Button came into the pits. So he's done quite well in this race, in a shake and bake that's potentially dropping back in developments, because he hasn't qualified well in the past few races, and Daniel Ricciardo has demonstrated that with a few poor qualifying and a few crashes as well.
He's also battling Sainz as well. You saw Sainz was behind him as well, so maybe Sainz could try and jump him once he makes his pit stop, and maybe we could see a double podium for GRM.
Possibly. I'm not sure if that's ever happened. I mean, and that was a very slow stop for Vettel as well. That's going to bring a massive opportunity for Carlos.
I don't think it ever has in FF1M, to be honest. Not even when they had Rubens Barrichello, I believe it was, at the team.
That was back in 2009, I believe.
Yep, when they had that Prost livery, I believe it was.
And back when you could run 3... Well, actually, in this era, you're running 3 different tyres as well, but The softs were very, very strong in qualifying, but absolutely hopeless in the race back then. But GRM did get quite a few pole positions from that.
Bottas is pitting this lap. I'm just looking at the gap between him and Button. It's 18.2 seconds, so I wonder if Button's actually got a chance to potentially jump him.
It's getting exciting, isn't it? It's been 2 or 3 laps since Button made his pit stop, and the gap is 18.2 seconds. It is a short pit lane, so that may favour Bottas, but it's critical that he gets out ahead if he's going to have an easy run to win.
Your last win was in Long Beach a couple of seasons ago, if I'm not mistaken.
2012 with Kimi Räikkönen at the wheel.
Trying to remember when Jensen's last win was. Was it last season? Did he get one last season when he was at Exelite? Or was it just Fernando that was winning for them?
Jensen last won. I'm gonna have a look at that if you'd like to commentate on this pit stop for me.
Well, as Bottas is now into the pits, it's a very crucial one for GRM. If Bottas wants any chance of getting his second victory of the season, Sainz stays out, so he's going to temporarily take the lead. And just see Button in the background, so this is going to be very, very close. And I believe that's Grosjean. He's also into the pits as well. Luckily, he's not going to get held up, but I think Button might have just done enough here. It all depends on how this pit lane exit goes with Bottas, but I do think, yes, Button is in the legit lead of the race once Sainz pits.
Well, goodness me, he could get his first win since the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix when he was driving for the LeBlanc team. That was a short-lived French team that was in FF1M briefly.
Yeah, he's even got quite a healthy gap as well. So far, as long as you don't have any issues, bang my fist on wood here, that you'll get a victory today.
I'm crossing everything right now. And let's see. Well, Bottas has got fresher tyres than Jensen. I mean, a few laps, but we'll see if that makes any difference. Sainz yet to make his final stop.
He is in a battle with Vettel as well, let's not forget Sainz, to try and get a double podium for GRM, but I think at the moment Vettel will have him covered as the gap between him and Sainz is 19.3 seconds. As Sainz is now in the pits.
Indeed he is. Let's see how Sainz's pit stop goes as Jensen Button takes the lead in this final stint of the race. Here he goes then. So, he's got a 4.1 second gap to Bottas, and Vettel should still be ahead of Sainz. He's just coming down the pit straight, and I think Vettel will hold on to P3. So, it looks like unless something happens, Sainz is probably not going to get the double podium, and he's even got Grosjean in front, so he's lost quite a lot of time. I think Grosjean pitted at the same time as Bottas, so he's now down to 5th, Sainz is. Just ahead of Magnussen, because I did see the positions flip between the two, but the pit exit meant that Sainz did just about jump Kev.
Yep, so 20 laps to go, as Magnussen, speaking of which, I think he might actually have a problem, because he's got 24 laps worth of fuel, and it is a brake problem for K-Mag.
Not what you want around Montreal, so we need to get that remedied pretty quickly. He'll be on fresher tyres come the end, which they were very useful in Road Americas because it helped him to jump quite a few people in his final stint to 6th position, but he's going to lose that to Sergio Perez, who's had a very good race from 13th on the grid, as has Jean-Eric Vergne, who qualified 11th. So those two will undoubtedly gain a position, I think, because it was about 18 seconds when the problems struck halfway around the lap, so Kev will lose a couple of positions, but how much will he lose?
I wonder if that might be a bit of a concern for Jensen leading in front. I don't want to wish any bad luck at all, because I do actually want to see your cars actually win, given all the bad luck you've had. So,
you're kind.
hopefully that's not a sign of things to come for your team.
Well, it's 12th position for Kevin Magnussen, rejoining behind, it looks like Kubica it's 11th position, and splitting the Andrew F1s of Kubica and Massa. And is this Hamilton versus Chandok going into turns 8 and 9, and locking up and spinning once again goes Lewis Hamilton.
He's not doing very well, and this is all going to be good news for Vettel, because at the moment he's going to retake the lead in the Drivers' Championship by, I believe, 4 points.
So yeah, just getting caught out by Chandok moving back onto the racing line, and potentially the dirty air, losing downforce, locking his brakes, slight nudge, and then a neat little 180.
And he's going to lose even further positions as we look at Jenson Button now with just, 4 and a bit laps remaining. He has got some traffic in front in the form of Chanduk, but look at that, Bottas is actually caught up to him now.
It's going to be a grandstand finish to the end. There's 4 laps to go after this one, and Bottas can see a second career victory right in front of him there. And there's slight slipstream going on between Button and Chanduk, but Bottas may get a faint slipstream and think the Gajera in the background, that's a lapped Gajera.
Well, I think they're both lapped, I think, to be honest with you, so...
But if Button holds on, that will be my 5th victory at the Canadian Grand Prix, which will move me to joint top with Pedersen. They currently hold the most wins at this circuit. That does include the old Masters era, and AJ doesn't count those statistics in this modern version of FF1M. But I liked her.
Yeah, well, there we go then. No arguments there, really.
Another minor history lesson.
Yeah, history lesson with James Brickles. As Button still hasn't been able to lap Karun. I think being held up in traffic could be a thing that could help Bottas here, with 3 and a bit laps to go now. I believe that Gajera, as we were speculating, might actually be Hamilton, because I think it is a purple helmet, so I do think it might be Hamilton that's been lapped. So yeah, not been a good day for Lewis, but his fellow compatriot so far doing a good job holding off Bottas at this point.
It might well be Kobayashi, because Hamilton did take a while to rejoin, so it's definitely one of the Gajeras anyway. As with three laps to go now, Button holds. Well, he held a 1.1 second lead over Bottas, and it's down to 0.8 of a second. That was a quarter of a second that Bottas took out of Button, who's probably not got the best tyres at this point. They are 3 or so laps older than Bottas. Maybe that's why he can't quite catch up to Chanduk.
Yeah, it all really depends really when Chanduk actually pitted. He might have fresher tyres compared to Jenson, but given how tricky it is to overtake around here, I mean, we have seen a few overtakes. As long as Button holds his nerves, and given the power that your car has, you should in theory hold on, but anything could happen.
It's also worth mentioning as well that it's the manufacturer Judd engine in the back of the FJR, and GRM have got the customer Mugen, so they don't have access to the higher engine modes during the race. And I must admit at this stage, I am running the middle of the higher engine modes. Might be the same sort of mode then as what GRM are using, because I would think that if the customer teams haven't got any engine modes, I would think they might be running a middle in the road sort of engine mode. So, but we're going to start the penultimate lap. Button's still holding on at the moment, and I believe that gap has cut down a bit more. From 0.8 to 0.6, so Bottas just needs a little bit more over these last couple of laps. And it's probably worth mentioning as well, Magnussen has made his way back up to 7th, so he's overtaken quite a few drivers in this final stint. So it's not gone too badly, actually. At the moment, you'll be scoring a total of 14 points at this race. And that will be quite a haul. But can I score 14 points, or will it be just the 10? What, given Magnussen's issues from earlier on, we'll have to wait and see. Absolutely, and both Horizons in the points once again. Don't want to jinx you, but it might even be the 2 if things go wrong. If things go catastrophically badly, then it could well be 2 or maybe 3 or none. Bottas not close enough this time around to make a move on Button, didn't really have the traction on him, so Button should be able to hold on as we will start the final lap very soon. And he's just wiggling about a little bit, just wondering whether to defend, and Bottas is now close. This is going to be some last lap. It is indeed. FJR versus GRM for the win. Hold on tight, get the popcorn out, this is going to get interesting. The battle of the 3-letter team names. Meanwhile, we've got Vettel in 3rd position, only 0.8 ahead of Grosjean, so there's a battle undecided there, and Sainz is not far behind either, it's just 0.4 back from Grosjean, and Suttle and Magnussen are very close together, so that battle for 6th position is going to go down to the wire as well. We've got battles everywhere.
Indeed so. I wonder if there's a battle for 6th possibly going on. We haven't seen the gap between Sutil, Magnussen and De Resta yet, so I wonder if there might be a battle down there as well as they come out of turns 8 and 9, which we haven't given a corner name for the final time, and it all really depends on this traction as Bottas... Bottas
no! Jenson Button pulling off! We've jinxed him!
This is like Nigel Mansell back in 1991!
Oh no. So what's happened to Jensen? And that was just a few more corners and that would have been a victory for FJR. But as it is going to be Valtteri Bottas who exits the final chicane to take his and GRM's first win of the season. Oh my goodness.
My. It's the same issue as what the Willows has had, a gearbox issue. What a way to end the race.
Oh my goodness me, so it's Valtteri Bottas who wins that from Sebastian Vettel, who comes home second ahead of Grosjean. Grosjean finally gets a podium for Pedersen, so well done to them, and Sainz fourth.
First points for him.
So, terrific weekend for GRM George Roque and his team, and it's Sutil who just about beat Magnussen in the end, but yet another 6th for Kevin Magnussen. It's De Resta. Al Jaswari gets a point for Mitchell, so that was a good race from last on the grid.
Absolutely. Gajera, no points for them as Kobayashi finishes in 9th, Hulkenberg 10th, Verne 11th, Perez 12th, and Buemi in 13th position. Another non-points finish for Tornado. I was also thinking as well, seeing in the practice times, I wonder if Gonzalez wins the title in FF1M, because he's doing a fabulous job in that at the moment, I wonder if Tobias might try and get him in towards the end of the season.
You need to have completed the FF2M Championship, I believe, but I'm best asking AJ about that. And there's some key retirements, and yeah, goodness me. And it was Alonso who did set the fastest lap, believe it or not, despite his very early retirement.
Ironic.
So within the first 15 laps.
Yep, that's not a statistic I want to see. My two guys down at the bottom of the retirement sheets, but there we are, really. I mean, your guy was classified, but a win robbed.
I beat Hamilton. That's something. No, it's not. Sebastian Vettel leads the championship by 6 points, retakes that from Hamilton thanks to his second position. Rosberg is holding on to third, and just 6 points ahead of Valtteri Bottas, and a further one from Fernando Alonso. And then further back we've got Grosjean, who sits 6th ahead of Verne, Button, Perez and Sutil completing the top 10. And as for the constructors, Willows hold an 8-point lead, but it's all closed up a little bit thanks to Shake and Bake and Vettel's second position.
GRM looking very strong now in 4th. They've got away a lot now from FJR. 19 points now behind Gajera, so who knows, maybe if Gajera slip up, GRM could actually get themselves into the top 3.
Who knows, and despite losing the winner, still move up ahead of Exolite.
Which, thanks to K-Mag, of course.
Yet another 6th position for him. So, we have got a bit of a break before we go to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. So from myself and Joseph Willows,
it's goodbye.